Greetings, dear viewers. Welcome to Diaspora Point. I'm your host, Auma Bella. Today, we have an exciting guest. Really exciting guest. A gentleman that I really respect. I've respected since I met him back at the World Bank in Washington, D.C. when I was working there. A mentor of me, and everything else that he has done, he will tell you. I will interject as I add on to something I think is important that he may have forgotten, but he is somebody you want to listen to. Welcome to Diaspora Point, Dr. Professor Solomon Samen. Karibu sana. Karibu means welcome.
Thank you very much, Beldina. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and looking forward to having an exciting exchange with you.
It's wonderful to see you again. It has been such a long time since I left DC and visited once, and I haven't seen you again. So it's great to see you. Now,
Absolutely. The same here.
thank you. Now, I want you to please tell us about you, everything about you. What I know about you, if I start saying, I will finish the whole program. So I want you to be the one to talk about yourself. Tell us what you are doing now. Tell us what you did before now, and tell us what you did before that. You have a rich life, and you know what? Feel free to talk as much as you can tell us, because we will do this in a series, because I know you are rich with a lot of wonderful information pertains to Africa's development, pertains to everything, to mentoring, to the development of Africans abroad. There is so much. Let me be quiet so you can talk. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Beldina. It's really a pleasure for me to be here. And first of all, let me thank you for the opportunity to be on your platform. I check around and it looks like Diaspora Point is growing and growing. So it's really a pleasure, to be here with you. I don't really know, the discussion will depend on what you want to discuss, But in the context of your program, I think it will be useful to do something that is of interest to the diaspora, to the interest of those who are on this side of the aisle, or for people, who are still on the continent. So I look forward, to having, rich exchange. In terms of introducing myself, to Diaspora Point, basically, after about 40 years in the diaspora, my life can be divided, by kind of three. The first part of those 40 years are the life with the World Bank. And after the World Bank, I had, the 2 years, the international consultancy assignment, where I was working, with the government of Mauritius on an extremely important program for the SADC and COMESA. And after the 2 years, I decided, to focus on myself and to build my own business. So, that's my life. In the last 40 years, 25 years at the World Bank, and 2 years of international consultancy, working for many countries, in Eastern and Southern Africa, and leading my own business in the US. That's my life. And I don't know what do you want to do, to start. With regard to life at the World Bank, it was a very interesting life. And out of the 25 years, I can say that, the first 15 years were very exciting part of the work. And the last 10 years of my life at the World Bank was a little bit in activism.
But you know, you did a great deal. You did a great deal for African countries in your official job at the World Bank, but you also did a great deal for Africans um, through mentoring and through the African society. You see, your mentoring, I have to confess, this is not about me, it's a program is about you, but you mentored me. You held my hand through being the first woman chair of the World Bank Group IMF African Society. That I congratulate you and I thank you because you made me the first woman chair and you made the African Society have the first woman chair. So you did so many things in that regard, but also in your regular job as a World Bank employee, you did a lot for African countries. Please delve in some of those.
Yes, thank you very much, Bedina. We were very proud, to have the first woman chair of the African Society, which is a very dynamic organization. I didn't follow up recently, but it was a very, very dynamic organization. At the helm of the African Society, there were opportunities to do a lot, and you did do a lot, and we also did do a lot, and we can dwell a little bit, on what we did in that context.
Yes, please.
So coming
did?
back, good. So coming back on my experience with the World Bank, the first 15 years were really the most exciting, very exciting, very useful part of my life experience, but also extremely frustrating. The first 15 years, extremely frustrating. I joined the World Bank in '86 in the context of the Young Professional Program. And I had, a good career during the first 10, 15 years of my career. I focused on my career and I contributed significantly, for reforms in many countries in West and Central Africa, particularly where I started my career. And it was extremely exciting, and I devoted, my life to making things happen there. It was very exciting, and it was compensated by 3-4 promotion, from the YP program, to a certain level. And when I reached that level, I started realizing that, simply working was not enough, to go up the ladder. Simply working, doing excellent job was not enough. There were other factors. For example, at some point, the frustration of the career, the satisfaction was extremely useful. The satisfaction was to go to several countries and to be at the center of structural reforms in many countries, to be at the center of liberalization in many countries. That was part of my life. I still believe in that. And just to give you an example, when you go to a country, you import a good, be it a car, a truck, or whatever, and you see the time it takes at the custom. In some countries, it's absolutely impossible, And when you were working, the benchmark was the performance of countries like Singapore, Taiwan, South Korea. We'll go there and see how they are doing, to facilitate trade and try to emulate their performance in Africa. For example, when a goods come to a country, we don't need to wait for 3 weeks, for 4 weeks to get the goods out of the port. We need to be able to do that, in a few hours. It's not impossible. Many countries did that. So the first part of my career was to focus on that, on trade reforms in many countries and on trade facilitation in many countries. And that took a lot of pleasure into doing that. And we did make many things happen. And the frustrating aspect of the job came when you start seeing that some of the work that has been done, was not really implemented as it was designed because of corruption in many countries and so on and so forth.
So frustrating, isn't it?
Extremely frustrating, and particularly today when you go there, you see that, you spend all your life to facilitate trade, in a country. What does that mean? That means that, when you land at the airport in Nairobi or wherever, when you cross the immigration, the passport, normally you should just walk in free
Yeah.
because everything has been done. You should just walk in free if countries are really, serious about trade facilitation. But it's not the case in many of our countries. You go, to each country, you cross, the immigration, and when you get to custom, is beginning of stories. That's the sign that things did not work out perfectly. Corruption, by this civil servants, making difficult to make things happen. All those ideas about trade facilitation, the free trade. We are not talking about free trade 100%. Or, each country has some sector to protect, but we are talking about, the movement, the facilitation of the movement of goods.
Yeah, the facilitation, so that we don't waste time, so that we don't waste resources, so that,
that's correct.
And one of the things that hinders facilitation is corruption. You just mentioned it lightly. Corruption is a disease that is hindering facilitation, because that person in front of you wants a little piece of his, whatever he wants, but the country also needs to be facilitated.
Absolutely. He wants a little piece of something to take home.
And yet he is on salary, on taxpayer salary.
That's right, and it's widespread. You go to each country, that's the first indicator that things are working. But when you go to a country and you are hindered, when you are in the process of getting things in or out, that's a corrupt country. That's a corrupt country, but because things can be made easier. And I spend my whole life working on that. I'm very frustrated when I go to countries. I see that many of those countries did not make any progress, on those lands of reform.
Very sad.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And the second aspect of the frustration of those 15 years working at the World Bank was the rapport, the relationship, with the management. In many cases, when you come from, because I came as a professional, I was not privileged to come here as a student. I came as a full-fledged professional, and when there are reforms, you see some bottlenecks in some countries. You understand them, and you have some solution for that. In many cases, people who are above you, your managers, people that give you orders, they don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
You need to look at their background. A guy, with anthropology will be your boss. You are an economist. A guy, with history background will be your boss for many years. A guy with geography background will be your boss for many years, giving you.
That is the sad human element to all of that. Very sad, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's all areas, even in communication, you studied communication, you excel in communication, you sit in an office and your boss has no idea what communication is. He has no idea, but he's your boss. He gives you instruction on us. That's very, very frustrating. Very frustrating.
I noticed in these organizations that, these international organizations, I worked in more than one, and I noticed that the human element messes up what is supposed to be the ethics and the ethos of that organization. Like, these organizations they work against racism, against sexism, against all those bad things. But the human element is introduced so that all these things happen anyway, right?
Yes. And that's extremely frustrating, because especially when you come, from Africa, you have some dreams. You go to an organization, you see, the motto of the organization says, this is where I want to be. And as soon as you get inside, you realize progressively that those people, those are just words.
And people like you with so many degrees, you are a PhD, you have 2 masters, you of course have your bachelor's, you have so many certifications and specializations. I think that also, because of the human element, makes you a target of some people who, as we all agree, some of them really didn't get much education, but because of the I don't know, societal norms that pertain,
Yeah,
they're your boss.
yeah, that's extremely frustrating. What would you say when you are economist and your boss will decide on your promotion? Her background is tourism. It's tourism. What would you say? At the beginning, you don't say anything, but since there is some kind of transparency, you go on the website, you kind of go through, the profile, of people working with you. See, those people, they don't know anything, they don't know anything.
That happens everywhere, and that is why organizations like the African Society was important, because there were some quiet
Extremely
interventions
important.
that the society had to do. And of course, as you know, that monthly, sometimes monthly, depending on the president of the World Bank, that monthly meeting with the president was important. And a lot of times I noticed the president would be very surprised that things are that bad. But then as soon as he gives instruction to the gray man, I think you know what the gray man means, the bureaucrats.
Yes,
Then
yes,
things
yes,
change
yes,
sometimes. Very interesting.
yes. Your transition to my next point is excellent, because against the background of great substantive work, where we felt that we were useful, for Africa. We felt that we were useful for the institution. We felt that we were useful, to the World Bank. There was the frustration that I just mentioned, and that's where I started, thinking about what's next. What should we do here? There are a lot of bottlenecks and so on and so forth. That's where I entered into activism, starting with the African Society.
Yes.
And I started, I continued to do my job, because I knew how to do it. But I started, looking for other ways, to improve the situation of Africa, and
Yes.
to improve the situation of Africans, within the organization.
Yes.
So we started with CD Jammeh, who was an excellent chairman.
Perfect. Yes.
And he did the best he could, and for some reason he had to retire, and he left the board and
He was
retired.
very innovative. He was very, very innovative.
Yeah, very innovative, and he was a great leader for the society, and he put the organization, at a very high level.
Yes.
And we took over, and we have to admit that we did not do as well as Chairman CD did. We did not do as well. Although we had all the connection in the Capitol Hill, we had connection over there, we had connection everywhere. We had the support of the president, Wolfenstone, and so on and so forth. But when CD Jammeh left, things, started. That's where, we look for great leader. That's why, we said, well, maybe Beldina might be the person.
I was naive enough to accept and to even campaign for it.
That's why, we quoted you. You have to be frank. We realized that, you were the solution to our problems. And you were the solution, to a large extent. You were a solution to our problem. And under your leadership, what did we do? We produced a never written report in the World Bank. Never written report on the status of racial discrimination in the World Bank. And that report continues, to be online.
And management was very angry. Even the staff association was angry that we presented you as a team, and I was honored to be under that. I was honored to be a leader in that group. But you guys did the work, and presenting that to the president of the World Bank angered management, and it angered the staff association as well, right?
Yeah. It was a revolution. Because I was in the staff association, I was the chair of the World Bank Diversity and Inclusion Program. And I was within the staff association. I had the budget, I have resources to make things happen. And I was doing, for me, it was my legacy.
It was wonderful.
We did a thorough study on the constraints. Why is it that, in an organization where Africa represents 8% of the, we don't even have 1% of African in the management? Those were the issues.
Yes.
So we went, statistic by statistic everywhere. We come up, with data, and we presented those data in the report.
Yes.
And when people started reading, the report, everybody was ashamed, and they started, trying to do everything they could, to kind of, undermine the report in various ways. But
you
they
did
couldn't,
us proud.
because
You did us proud by doing that report, leading that report, and it stands to be, I think, the benchmark of everything in terms of racism in the World Bank, I think, to date.
no, absolutely, it became the benchmark. It became the benchmark, and I'm glad today that I'm telling you, when we were there, moving from a certain grade level, I don't want to go into the names of those grades because they change all the time. To reach a certain level was extremely difficult. 98% of Africans had a glass ceiling. They could not move to another level. 98% of Africans, they could not move to the next level. And when you saw the African who were at the other level, you realize that out of 5 Africans who were at the director level and and things like that, 4 out of 5 were married to white to white women.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing.
Spousal marriage.
4 out of 5. Then you start realizing that what's going on here. What can we do to really break that glass? We did what we could.
Yes.
We did not reap the fruit of that, but the next generation, many people today, I meet with people frequently, tell me that the director of this, does this or that, it's good. We did our part. You contributed significantly for that. I remember the day. I remember the day where among everybody in a hall full of people, you stood up and you gave that report to the president. Who was amazed.
That angered many people.
That's right. It angered many people, but the point was made.
Yeah, the powers that we were angry, but the common African benefited a great deal. In fact, after that, I think we got some 2 major promotions at the vice president level and more. Even in the legal department, we got something very significant, I think.
No, after that, many things changed.
Yes.
After that report. Many things changed, Africans, within the institution, they took advantage of it, they benefited, from it. We were not there anymore. And Africa benefited from it. Because when you have African at key position, they will do the right thing for Africa. They will do the right thing for Africa. So we contributed in our way, to improving the situation, in Africa.
Yes.
I can't tell you the frustration when I had, at the beginning of my career, when I was with people who will go to countries, poor countries, like Mali or Burkina Faso, you will see all the problems, and people will come back to Washington and say that, those countries don't need anything. I'm telling you.
And they turn around and call those countries basket case countries. You know that?
Yes. And they will say that those countries don't need anything. And when they will be forced, to do something, they will just give peanut.
Imagine.
Look, if you go, in the record of the World Bank and so you will see loans, to Mali, Burkina Faso, 7 million, 10 million, in the 80s and so on and so forth. Those countries, I was part of the teams. They were coming back and saying that those countries don't need anything.
Imagine. That's the human element I talk about.
Absolutely amazing. So that has been my frustration, and we did whatever we could, for that. And for the generation, for people who are in Africa and who are dreaming for coming to the World Bank, they need to be aware that, it's not a walk in the park.
Yeah.
It's not a walk in the park. There are serious, problems, and you really need to be courageous, and keep your focus on action
and
to be able to deliver.
Who are still at the World Bank, our former colleagues, should also take mentoring very seriously. And those who go in, to your point, should seek mentorship, because it is a maze that is not easy to navigate, right?
No, absolutely. Mentorship is critical. The drama is that, when you are hired in those organizations, you are hired there, you think that, you are the brightest of the brightest, you are the best of the best, and so on and so forth. We need to be humble. When you go there, you need mentorship. People who have been there, should coach you,
Yes.
It should be, it should be a mutual responsibility, not just that, when you go there, you need to go and look for people who have been there to be, to get some advice. And those who have been there too should be humble enough to give a hand to those who are just coming. Give them a hand.
Everybody is very busy, but it's something to make time for.
No, it's absolutely something to make time for. I remember, when I was a YP, I can't forget that. I was sitting in my office, in the first assignment. I was a French-speaking, economist, new to the place, a weird place, and so on and so forth. One day, a guy who was advisor to the office of the president, it was Isaac Sam, a great guy. He was destroyed by the world.
Is it from Ghana? From Ghana?
Yes, from Ghana. A great guy. He walked into my office, he said that, let's go and have lunch. I didn't even know who he was.
That was great of him.
No, absolutely. And that's what I tried to the best I could, to give back too.
Yes.
When you have,
you did.
support,
you did a lot of good mentoring. I'm a beneficiary.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. To give some of that back, to tell people that, well, this is a complex place, but, this is your place. You are here because you are capable. You are here because the organization wants you. You are here because Africa wants you,
Yes.
And we tried, to do our part. Yes. It was not a very easy exercise, chairperson. It was not very easy.
Yes. So now we want to also hear about your business. Must have been difficult to start, but the good thing with the US, things are what they are meant to be, and things are enabling, but of course nothing is easy. I'm sure you put a lot of effort, a lot of patience, a lot of resources. Tell us a bit of that.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. And I just have, to tell people who are at the World Bank or who are in Africa, trying to come to the World Bank or other organization, that it's not the end of the world. Where you work for those organizations is not the end of the world. Don't think that, when you are there, you have reached the sky. There is a lot of room for improvement.
Yes.
And by working out of those institutions and by setting up your own business, you have a better life than when you are at the World Bank. You can have a better life, definitely.
Yes.
And when I look, at my past, I have the feeling that I spent too much time at the World Bank. I should have left a long time ago.
But we all needed you, so we are glad you stayed longer.
And you can work from there, and work in the private sector and have a different life in the private sector. And to work out of those institutions and have a life, you need two things. You need capital and you need knowledge.
Yes.
And you need knowledge. You need to identify the area of interest to you. First of all, to see what is it that you want to do.
Yeah.
When you have identified an area of interest to you, you need to have the knowledge. You need to know. There is nothing out there that you can do without knowledge.
Yes.
And once you have the knowledge, you can take some training. Today there are many online training on whatever, being real estate, investment on the market. Things are very sophisticated today. You can invest, on all what array of assets,
Yeah.
You get the training and so on and so forth. But once you have the knowledge based on training, based on what you want to do with your life, the second aspect is the capital. You need money.
Yes.
And you need money. And for people who are in America, I think, there is no better place than America to get the capital, which is almost free.
That's true.
Because there are credit cards here, and people, coming to America, they should do whatever they can not to mess up with their credit.
Yes. Keep a clean credit, and whatever you want financially, you'll get, right?
Yes, absolutely. You need to do everything you can, It also depends on who you meet when you come here. If you meet, with you are unlucky to meet with some funny people, they will help you mess up your credit. The credit, is your life saving.
Yeah.
when you have good credit, you can build your credit all the time so that at some point, many banks will be sending you credit card here and there to do business with you.
Yes.
But it's impossible, if you mess up your credit, if you mess up, your credit, the banks will be close to you.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do.
And you got to
But
pay your
when
taxes.
you have
You got to pay your taxes on time. That's part of your credit,
absolutely,
right?
you have to. Absolutely, you have to pay your taxes. You have to pay the banks that give you money on time. Don't never miss a single payment. You have to work with the bank. But once you start working with the bank, every day the bank will be giving you money. Every day they will be calling you, to give you money. Do you need money? They call you all the time.
Yes.
That's a little bit, where I kind of developed some interest. I started, working on real estate issue, and I started investing on multi-family residential properties, and I didn't buy with the money left to me by my parents, or legacy of
we
anything.
Africans don't have that. Most of us don't have that.
Yeah, most of us don't have that. So we use other people's money.
Yes.
We use other people's money. We use the money coming from the bank.
Yes.
You can buy a property here. You can buy a property here, with credit card.
Yes.
When you have done your work properly, you can repay the banks.
Yeah.
You can repay the banks, and increase your asset.
Yes.
Increase your asset. Increase your equity in properties.
Yes.
And once you have a good model, in real estate or other business, you just have to duplicate what works.
Yes.
You just have to duplicate, keep doing whatever is working. For you, to continue to accumulate and so on and so forth.
Yes.
And at some point, if you still have the energy, you can do that forever. But at some point, you get tired. Now, I'm thinking about other things. Now I'm no longer thinking about accumulating. I'm thinking about kind of unwinding and doing something, something different.
Yes.
Because you need to find a good model. You need to find a good model. And I chose, to invest in real estate, and I do not regret it. To be able, to accumulate a good portfolio that fits me, that fits my family. That also develop, what is of interest to me today, because I do a lot of humanitarian work.
Yes.
I try to see how useful I can be, to where I come from,
Yes. Yes.
by providing a lot of humanitarian support, to many people. Yes,
Giving back.
to give something back to where we come from.
Yes.
And as I'm speaking to you now, this is the beginning of the school year.
Yes.
So I go to many schools, I buy, the school materials, books, everything for all students, all teachers in many schools.
Yes.
They don't even know who is doing that, but that's where I take pleasure, to try to give something back as much as I can.
That's the joy of charity, when you're just doing it because it gives you that satisfaction and it helps the other person. That's the joy of it.
Yeah.
We
Absolutely.
We leave big pronouncements to the politicians, right?
Yeah, that's
They will do something small and they will take a bullhorn and let the whole world know. But for some of us, you just do whatever you can do quietly, right?
I'm not going to say it, publicly. We started, by getting politicians involved, but today we don't do that anymore. We just go and do whatever we have to do.
Yes,
we just go
and we don't
do
talk
whatever.
about it. You see, politicians like to make noise about the little bit they do.
Yes. So we just go, we do about it. This week, we are going to give scholarship, excellent scholarship, in the high school. Wonderful. Where I went to school, and it's going to be joy, for people. The best of the schools are going to be lining up, collecting money.
Wonderful.
That's what I take my pleasure today.
Wonderful.
Trying to give back, trying to give back something to where I come from.
Yes.
And I'm also involved, in Donson Y. Are you familiar with that, Donson Y?
What's that again?
Donson Y.
Oh, Dunstan
You
Y
know, to help,
Foundation. Yes, Dunstan Y. Yes.
yeah, to try, you know, to help, you know, the girls there, you
Yes.
know, a couple of girls to go to school, things like that. Those are things, you know, which are actually important.
Wonderful. Now tell me
Yeah.
about your family, the kids, hopefully grandkids, the mom. Everything is going well?
No, you know, we thank God we have been blessed, you know, to have a very good and healthy family. You know, I'm blessed to have 7 grandkids.
Ooh, wonderful.
Yes, so you see that, you know, our time is really busy. You know,
Yes,
we have 7 grandkids, 3 boys and 4 girls, and they're all
wonderful.
healthy. We thank God for that, you know, and we have a family life. You know, we can't complain.
How
We can't
many kids do
complain.
you have? How many children yourself do you have?
Uh, I have four children. I have 4 children. 1 boy and 3 girls.
Wonderful, wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. And I'm sure
Uh,
your beautiful wife is doing great.
yeah, she's doing great. She does whatever she wants. She's still active. She does whatever she wants. You know, I don't mess up with her schedule. She does whatever she wants.
Wonderful,
You know.
wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
So, anything else you think you should highlight for us before we have to let you go? Because I know you have another appointment. This has been
Yes.
really great.
Yeah, I don't think, you know, there is much, you know, to be said. You know, I just want, you know, to thank you again, and to see that, you know, there is also room for people in the diaspora to contribute to the development of our motherland.
Yes,
People from the diaspora,
yes,
we have a lot of knowledge, a lot of resources here,
yes,
and the government should create a auspicious environment, you know, to welcome people from the diaspora, to make things happen on the ground,
yes,
you know. And that can happen in 2 ways: with the knowledge that many people have accumulated here in many areas,
yes,
not just people working for the World Bank, or, you know, in all areas,
yes,
people who have been working, you know, in the school system, in the banking system, in the health system,
yes,
here, in all areas. They can contribute a lot. If you bring them over there, you know, they can contribute a lot in various areas. And government should really be encouraged, you know, to open up the doors,
yes,
you know, to bring the diaspora back.
yes,
And not to mention, you know, the key factor that people have been, you know, that has been in the air for many years: the money. You know, the diaspora has the money that many people locally don't have. So a combination of knowledge and money
yes,
can make big changes to Africa, and we all need to be able to contribute to that.
yes,
You know,
absolutely.
absolutely, absolutely.
And you know, to your point, the diaspora have the knowledge, very unique knowledge, and knowledge not only of their own countries, but then the country that they adopted, where they have lived
Yes,
for however many decades. They have a lot of
yes,
knowledge in those countries, how development have happened in those countries, and those are knowledge that can be
yes,
used back home. Unfortunately, though,
definitely.
I must say, as a returning diaspora, I've noticed that there is no facilitation and room for a diaspora to be able to do their best.
That's
And
a mistake.
yes, and you know, you find that you come with very good intentions, and a lot of things happen badly. We need to have good governance. We need back
Yes,
in Africa, and I'm not talking about one country. We need good governance in many of our African
yes,
countries. We
yes,
need
yes,
a good banking system. I mean, a banking
yes,
system that you can trust with your money. And this is something
yes,
I would tell
yes,
diasporas and emphatically: be careful with your money. Whatever loans you need, take them in the US. Don't come taking loan in Africa. And I know the banking community in this country are going to roast me. Let them do so, because I'm not talking from my nose or my ears, but I'm talking from what I have seen. You can lose a lot of things if you want to rely on the banking system in this country. The banking system in the US pride themselves in being very honorable, very truthful to you, very facilitative to you, and can help
Yes,
you
yes,
build what they promise you to build. If it is wealth you are trying to build, whatever it is you are trying to build, they will help you, and they will make sure that
yes.
the interests are reasonable, and they don't peg in all kinds of mysterious charges that in the end you find you lose whatever it is you bought with them, you end up losing it. So that's one thing I would take this opportunity to tell the diaspora: be careful. Whatever loans you need to take, please take them in America if you're in the US, because US banks are
Yes,
very good. I'm not saying this because
yes.
somebody paid me to say it. I'm saying this because I've gone through what I've seen in the banking system, that how they will drive you bankrupt in some of these
It's a
developing countries.
rip-off,
So
a lot of rip-off.
yes, so you have brought up many issues about the diaspora's money. In fact, many countries in Africa now, the remittances are the most money the most source of income of many countries in Africa. Now, I know that the African Union, together with the World Bank, were working on something about making sure that it is not stopping at remittances, which is usually the school fees here, the medical issues to support the parents, the building of houses
Yes,
for parents or for self,
yes,
but beyond that, which is investment. Now, when it comes to investment, one has to be very careful because the environment is not very facilitative. But I encourage that we find a way
yes,
as diaspora, even though I'm a returned diaspora, I count myself as a diaspora because I still have resources back in the US. We have to find how
yes,
to make sure that we can bring resources and invest carefully in a monitored way so that we can develop our countries. That, if you look at the
yes,
history of Africa, even colonization was done by the private sector. So the private sector,
yes.
we people, the diaspora, are a big part of the private sector. Let us be an organized private sector to develop our countries.
No, we can we can from the diaspora we can contribute to that. We spend all our life doing that, in
Yes,
organization. We can contribute. We have the brains, to make that happen.
yes,
And we just have, to work closely, with all stakeholders,
yes.
including the governments and so on and so forth, to make things happen. We can make things happen
We
on
can,
our own.
and we know how to. Only when we hit the
Yes,
brick wall, that becomes a problem, or the stone wall, or whatever it is. And that is usually
yes,
from the governance point of view.
yes.
Yes, yes. Well,
Okay,
thank you so much.
okay.
Dear viewers, you have just heard from Dr. Professor Solomon Samen, very well educated, hardworking. Right now, after having worked for the World Bank, after having been a professor in several universities in Cameroon, but also in France, he is now the CEO, the head owner and founder of SSM LLC, a multi-million-dollar company. Yes, you can do it. Yes, we can do it. Solomon is doing it and leading by example. A man who gives back, even at the World Bank. He, as I said, he held my hands. He's the one who came to my little office as a young senior officer, and he sat there. Myself, I'm a young senior officer, not young in age because he's almost my age, but young in my coming to the World Bank as a staff.
Absolutely.
And he encouraged, looked at me in the eye and said, we need fresh blood at the African society. We need a woman leader. And I'm looking at him like, what? And of course, that is history now. It worked well. And I thank him for mentoring me, for mentoring everybody else that he mentored. Professor Dr. Solomon Samen, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure. We are going to work other opportunities. I have an appointment now. I'm sorry not to
Please
be
go ahead.
rushing with this. I have an appointment. And we are going to work other opportunities.
Yes,
Thank you
yes.
very much, Chairperson.
We appreciate you, and we'll always call you if we need you again. When we need you again, it's not if, when. Thank you. Bye-bye. God bless.
Absolutely no problem. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Bye-bye. Dear viewers, we have just heard from Dr. Professor Solomon Samen, a wonderful, wonderful African, a U.S. national, but a Cameroonian citizen, an African citizen, a man who mentors, who leads. We ask you to support this channel so that we can continue to bring you wonderful guests like Solomon, like the previous other guests who declared themselves. One of our guests Mr. Hide said, I am a long-term expatriate to the United States. So all these wonderful diasporans are long-term expatriates to the United States. If we run good programs, they will be happy to come back. They will be happy to come and build Africa. Some of them are already doing so. But in order for us to do well and to continue, please do subscribe to our channel, do like our program, and do share our programs. We thank you. We appreciate you. Keep watching us. Bye-bye.